Well, ladies and gentlemen, another day in retarded politics. But before we get on to the main video of today, I did say that I do value my channel members. And I did say that I would be doing a random draw of the first 5 channel members that were randomly selected from my list of channel members, and that they would win a t-shirt and mug at the end of June. Well, the end of June is come and gone, and I've done the draw. And the draw can be found in my YouTube shorts. I will link it at the end of this video. So let's get on to the main video of today. So for those of you who have been living under a rock, you will know that the GNU is currently fracturing. Basically, it's fracturing because of the DA. You know that the DA drew a line, a battle line, yet of how many now that they've done. And they claimed that they would be boycotting budgets for the ANC ministers that they deemed to be corrupt. Now, I did say in my video yesterday that there were a number of corruption-accused ANC ministers that the DA has issued, actions against with the police. They've reported these individuals to various institutions for investigation. Now, this has all been done after Cyril Ramaphosa fired the DA's Deputy Minister Andrew Whitfield over what was classed as a minor travel issue, but it seems like it may have been linked to a more serious corruption allegation within the cabinet, specifically Paul Mashatile's Lotto whatever. If you've watched the videos on it, you'll know very well what's going on. But anyway, the DA has, as you will know from my video yesterday, threatened a vote of no confidence. And Helen Zille has filed a police case against various ministers, accusing them of misleading Parliament over seated board appointments. Now, in typical fashion, and you knew it was going to happen, in typical fashion, said ANC leaders called the DA racist and misogynist, even though it came from Helen Zille, who's a chick. But anyway, let's ignore that. Anyway, apparently the entire thing was, just a messy tug of war on principle versus power. Because according to them, the principles that the DA say they're holding up is anti-corruption, and the ANC says that the entire thing is based on budget debates. These guys are retarded. This is not what's going on. The DA is saying that Andrew Whitfield was fired for exposing corruption. Cyril says no, it was travel. So then the DA said, well, then fire all the rest of the corruption accused. That's what's going on here. Let's ignore the racism and the misogyny, whatever, bull rubbish. The ANC, same script every time. Now, despite all the DA resistance, President Ramaphosa has signaled that he won't retaliate. He basically says that according to the National Working Committee, they have suggested that Cyril has no appetite to punish the DA. Now, there may be a good reason for that, and that is because the suggestion of a vote of no confidence is quite a serious one. If it's successful, let's say you get the MK party, the EFF, and you get some other minnow party, I don't know, maybe even the Freedom Front Plus votes for it. Cyril's gone, and he can't come back. Now, the Deputy President, Paul Mashatilia, has confirmed that the ANC will back all budget votes. Now, this comes after the ANC said that they wouldn't back, DA budgets, and that they would do it in retaliation for the DA saying they wouldn't back the budgets of the ANC corruption accused. But apparently, the ANC is going to actually take a principled position on this. And so they've said that the budget is for the people, not for the ministers. And they've said that despite the national dialogue being boycotted by the DA, so they're going to continue with it anyway. So moving from one retarded political party onto the next. And this is the news that the MK party is imploding. They're always imploding since they've been launched. They've had how many secretary generals, how many chief whips, how many whatever. The party is just, I don't know how to describe it at this point. Anyway, the MK party, once billed as the bold political rebirth of Zuma-era politics, is unraveling because of internal warfare. This comes after the Deputy President, John Shorper, launched a campaign to remove key figures and restructure the parliamentary MK caucus. You will recall that actually once MK was sworn in, a number of them got sacked as MPs anyway. So this will be like the reorganization of the caucus for the 50 millionth time. In any case, a so-called top management structure was allegedly created by an ousted chief whip, and Hlophe says that this top management structure has no basis and operates almost as a parallel to the party lines. Now, Hlophe wrote a letter to President Jacob Zuma saying that he urged this rogue structure to be dissolved and its functions merged with the official chief whip team to restore order and constitutional compliance of the party. Because nothing says an organized party like dual structures all competing for their part of the slice of cake. In any case, Hlophe says that he wants to crack down on ill discipline from certain MPs, and the MPs, would you know, that he highlighted was none other than Jacob Zuma's daughter, Duduzile. Yep. And also the party's spokesperson. He also accused them of disrupting meetings and undermining the chief whip, Colleen, who, if you recall, was an Action SA defectee, and that he suggested that these parties were actually causing division within the MK party itself. Now, Hlophe actually hurled some insults as the current chief whip. Meanwhile, Hlophe suggests that Duduzile has been creating chaos by interrupting proceedings and walking out in protests, and basically being a madam of the MK party. But he also suggests that their ambassador has attempted to mobilize parliamentary MPs to sabotage caucus meetings and rebel against the chief whip. So, yeah, everybody's fighting everybody. There's a Hlophe aligned faction, there's a Duduzile aligned faction, there's a this aligned faction and a that aligned faction, all for a party that hasn't even been in existence for more than a year. They're already in factional battles. So this has led many individuals to ask the obvious question: who the hell runs the MK party? What's the constitution? What's the Zuma clan? What's the non-Zuma clan? And this kind of comes back to the whole point that we've made on Morning Shot a number of times, and that is the MK party is nothing more than a pet project of Jacob Zuma. Once Jacob Zuma passes, that party is going to cannibalize itself, because right now, that party is cannibalizing itself right now. So, moving then swiftly onto a really interesting topic, and this is the topic that the Correctional Services Minister, Peter Groenewald, has proposed reviving corporal punishment, beatings, for offenders who cannot afford bail for minor crimes. Why? He says, well, in order to reduce the massive prison overcrowding, and if you can't actually afford a bail of, say, under 1,000 rand, then why don't you just get a good beating? He says a young person who steals 10 loaves of bread, sits in prison, and waits 3 years for sentencing. He says, what's the point of that? He says a solution: bring back some beatings as an alternative to jail time. And Bob's your uncle. Things will be all hunky-dory, he says. Now, Razan Zamzi's MP has rejected the idea, saying that we don't need corporate punishment. We need community services. So yes, when the guy steals 10 loaves of bread, what he really needs to do is plant you some new trees, and that will make everything hunky-dory. It's done. Anyway, the PA's MP, Marlon Daniels, has gone a little bit further, calling for the return of the death penalty for murderers. Because that's actually one of Gayton's pledges. He says that he wants to bring back the death penalty in South Africa. Hence why he really likes Bukele in El Salvador, who brought back the death penalty. According to Groenewald, the reason that he had suggested this is that he is trying to grapple with a prison population of over 104,000 inmates, many of them stuck in this system, plagued by backlogs, underfunding, and poor rehabilitation prospects. As though, to be frank, according to him, a good beating would actually be smarter justice. It would actually be a form of restorative program and a degree of community labor, because that person would get a good beating and be like, I don't want another one of them, and they'll go back to being a good, constructive member of society. Do let me know what you think of Peter's suggestions in the comment section below. On to some final news stories, and this is the news story that a dairy farm in the Eastern Cape, a 43 million rand dairy farm, which is part of a land reform project meant to empower rural residents with cows and jobs, has collapsed. I mean, I'm sure you're shocked, as you were shocked as me. The community was less destitute when all the cows, and I quote, mysteriously died. The infrastructure was looted and the government blames floods. Yes, because the floods killed the cows and looted the infrastructure. Corruption had nothing to do with it. which is really, really weird, right? I mean, this seems to be a recurring feature in South Africa. Floods, must be climate change. In any case, the next minor story is the story that the SACP, the South African Communist Party, has been locked out of the ANC's election strategy meeting. And the comrades were told they can't sit in the planning whilst contesting against the ANCs in the upcoming elections. The communists say they understand the move, and insiders reveal that the ANC's approach is that if you contest against us, we'll treat you like Zuma. And if you recall, they kicked Zuma out of the party. So this is a really interesting news story. It's far more interesting than you think, because as you all know, the tripartite alliance of the ANC and the SACP and COSATU has been in place for like ever and a day. But as the SACP are now going to directly compete against the ANC in the next municipal election, it has effectively, in theory, broken up the tripartite alliance. Now, the SACP had previously said this wasn't the case and, everything was fine, everything will be fine. But this now shows us that actually everything is not fine. Because when the election strategy meetings are taking place and they're told the SACP to footsec because you're our competition, this is the first time that the SACP are on their own, and I have every prediction that they will fail miserably and come back to the ANC with their tail between their legs. But let's be honest, the SACP has become irrelevant, and the only way for them to gain any form of relevance in South Africa is to get some actual election mandate of their own and try to leverage that with the ANC in order to, get some positions or some power within the party. But that doesn't currently look likely. Final news story of the day. This is the US trade deal. And this is the news that South Africa may have to rewrite its trade deal in response to the proposal from the Trump administration's new template for sub-Saharan Africa. So what this actually is the story that the Trump administration have created this template which they're going to give to all sub-Saharan African countries. Those countries are going to have to adopt by it and readjust their trade deals in accordance, and if not met, there will be no trade deals. Now, why this is important is that the current tariffs, if you recall, we had 30% tariffs going to be placed against South Africa. Those are due to come in very, very shortly. And this new template is currently going to take actually quite a bit of time in order to be able to structure trade agreements. So the reality is, now that they have this new template, any trade agreement with the US is not going to happen within the required time in order to avoid the tariffs. The reality is the tariffs on exports like steel and automotives, which are due to triple, remember 30% tariffs, look like they're going to happen whether they want them to or not. And so what's actually happening is some of these sub-Saharan countries are asking the US to extend the current freezing on tariffs by a further 90 days in order to negotiate trade deals. But nothing's been said about it at the moment. So as of the time of recording, it does look like those trade tariffs are going to come in, and it is going to have a seriously negative impact. So let's wait and see what happens. Anyway, that's all my views for the day. Do let me know what you think in the comment section below. Until tomorrow, bye.